Radha Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I know that's lots of verses to hear at once, but it's a wonderful ending to a wonderful pastime, and a wonderful canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as we hear sometimes, when we finish up particular sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are these wonderful benedictions there. Yes, and today's is that there's such wonderful verse. The descriptions of the dealings of Kapila Deva and his mother is very confidential, and anyone who hears or reads this narration becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is carried by Garuda, and he therefore enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So this is the destination for all of us. Isn't that wonderful? We've been hearing this description of the dealings of Lord Kapila Deva and his mother Devahuti. So then the question comes, well, what does it mean to hear? Yes, because we can sit and attend, which is very important, and yet sometimes what we hear can, go in one ear and out the other. And the sound vibration, regardless, Srimad Bhagavatam is purifying. Regardless of if, it's going in and out, it's purifying. Same with hearing the holy name of Krishna, it's always purifying. And yet we know there's a quality to our hearing that speeds up that purification, that allows us to really access the goal of Krishna consciousness, what's being described today. So this quality of hearing that's being described today is not simply just attendance. It's, as my spiritual master, His Holiness Devamrita Swami describes, we hear with our ear and our heart. That what we hear is meant to penetrate, not simply sit on the surface, but it's actually meant to come into the heart. And how do we know if we're hearing with our heart? Then our actions will change. There will be some transformation, and it may not be immediate, but we can see by the quality of our activities. Am I hearing effectively? Am I actually opening my ear and opening my heart to the transcendental vibration of the Srimad Bhagavatam? Is my heart changing? Are those attachments weakening? Am I developing more of a taste to hear Srimad Bhagavatam more constantly? Do I want to attend more? All of these things we can see as like a barometer. How is our hearing process, actually, am I doing it effectively or not? So we want to hear effectively, because these benedictions that we hear at the end of different chapters or cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, they are real, and that is what's on offer. Okay, that by hearing these descriptions of Lord Kapila Deva and the dealings with his mother, anyone who hears or reads this becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord, and enters into the abode of the Supreme Lord to render transcendental loving service. So this is the goal that we're all working towards. So these benedictions, these verses at the end of chapters, they should give us a lot of confidence, actually, that simply by engaging in this hearing process, then all perfection will be there. All perfection is there, and it's simply a matter of application, sincerity, and determination to reach that goal. And this is the confidence that we can get from this whole pastime of Devahuti and Kardama Muni and Lord Kapila Deva. It's been going on for so many chapters. It's the whole third canto practically, is this pastime. And that is how important it is. And we've seen the wonderful example of Devahuti, and as Srila Prabhupada says, Devahuti is an example for everyone, how to apply the process of devotional service, how to inquire We see the quality of her questions toward her son. We see her submission that yes, he's my son, and yet I will sit before him and take instruction because I'm aware of his position as the Supreme Lord. We see her renunciation in her dealings with her husband. Srila Prabhupada also says in the beginning of the third canto that this relationship between Devahuti and Kardama Muni as husband and wife, we can also see this as a relationship of guru-disciple, that Devahuti is serving her husband, who is her guru, with all submission, simply rendering him service without considering her own situation. And as we know, Devahuti, she was a princess. And her family line was nothing that we could even imagine. And yet she served her husband Kardama Muni so humbly that she neglected all of her own considerations, all bodily considerations. She simply engaged in his service. And what was the result of that service? Kardama Muni became so indebted to her in love that he gave her all comfort, although that's a side point, but he gave her all comfort, and he also gave her the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son, as her child. And he gave her the best gift of transcendental knowledge coming through her transcendental son. So there is so many lessons going through this canto. And one of them, and that I wanted to focus on, and the focus that I kind of see of this verse today, this final verse, is that we should be very confident in the process of devotional service. And Srimad Bhagavatam is describing that over and over again in so many different pastimes throughout the Bhagavatam, so many different dealings with the Supreme Lord and his devotee, or between devotees and devotees, that show that this process of devotional service is attainable. The goal of devotional service is attainable. And that should give us a lot of confidence in our own application of devotional service. And it is that confidence that gives us the determination that Devahuti has been such an example of to keep us progressing in our spiritual life. So I wanted to just read this very famous verse from Upadeshamrita. Utsahan nischayadharyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyagat satovrite shadbir bhaktir prasidyati. That there are 6 principles favourable to the execution of pure devotional service. The first one, utsahan, enthusiasm. The second one, what are we? Nischayad. Very similar, confidence. And then dharyat is the patience, yes. These 3 are often, these are the primary 3, aren't they? And then definitely the other 3 are also extremely important. Acting according to the regulative principles, so our 9 processes of devotional service. That's what's being referred to as the regulative principles here. And abandoning the association of non-devotees and following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. And Srila Rupa Goswami says that these 6 principles undoubtedly assure the complete success of pure devotional service. So it's another one of those verses that can give us so much confidence, yes? And these principles, we can see them just exemplified so perfectly throughout this whole interaction between Devahuti and Kapila Dev, Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So if we, while meditating on this pastime, we can meditate on these principles. Enthusiasm, constant, yes? Never once did Devahuti become morose. We didn't see that. We saw her just this constant enthusiasm to serve, endeavouring with confidence, and as you said, determination. So I think these 2 are very intertwined. Oh my gosh, did you draw that? Thank you. What did you Sorry, 1 second. Thank you. Thank you. But this is also enthusiasm, you know. We see Sati's exemplifying enthusiasm, wanting to serve, wanting to give. Patience. Yes, Devahuti she was patient, tolerant, acting according to the regulative principles. Yes, hearing, chanting, serving. She was always acting in that way. She wanted to understand the regulative principles. She wanted to understand devotional service. That's why she was inquiring from her son, Kapila Dev. Abandoning the association of non-devotees, that definitely that wasn't really an issue for her. And following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, she perfectly executed devotional service in the way that Lord Kapila Dev instructed her. She followed the footsteps of her husband, who was acting as her guru, and she was perfectly following in that way. And she achieved the supreme destination, as we heard in the previous verses. And so much so that she was so powerful and so pure that even the material elements of her body, when they met the earth, or they melted into water, it says, and now they are a flowing river, which is a most sacred of all rivers. So this is a great tirtha, and people who desire perfection always go to bathe there. So she achieved the supreme destination, and that destination is available for everyone, yes, if we can follow the process of devotional service as is given in this way, with confidence, with patience, with determination, with enthusiasm, following properly. Then we attain this destination, and we can take advantage of this benediction that's being given, that just by hearing these descriptions, hearing and reading these descriptions, then the person will become a devotee and will enter into the abode of the Supreme Lord, to engage in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. This is what's on offer by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. If that quality of our hearing is there, is ripe, yes, that we hear with attention, we hear with the mood of, I don't know, I want to change, yes, that we don't hear with that mood of, I already know all this, and what's the point of hearing this again and again? You know, the same points are being discussed over and over again, and it's, you know, I'm a bit beyond this. Not with that kind of mood, you know. We hear in Bhagavad Gita how Arjuna approaches Krishna with the quality of his questions, his attitude. How does Arjuna approach Krishna? He approaches him in a non-envious way. And that's why Krishna describes so many more and more confidential topics. As we're hearing today, this is so confidential. The descriptions of the dealings between Kapila Dev and his mother are very confidential. This is something that we, you know, it's not automatically that we gain entrance into. This is something that we need to really be eager to gain entrance into, make sure our mood and our attitude toward approaching these pastimes is correct. Srila Prabhupada spoke so much about that we don't, you know, specifically in regards to the 10th canto pastimes, but that can apply to all of the pastimes, you know, that we don't approach in an incorrect way, that we're not approaching these pastimes in a flippant kind of way or in a cheap way that, oh yes, you know, I automatically understand everything. But that we approach the Srimad Bhagavatam, we approach these pastimes with humility and with that real eagerness that, yes, actually, Krishna, I need you. I need these descriptions. I need this purification of the heart that will come. Please allow me to enter into the proper understanding of the Bhagavatam and the proper understanding of the process of devotional service. So there is so much in this whole pastime of Devahuti and Kardama Muni, and so much throughout the whole Bhagavatam that will change our heart, you know, if we let it Not that, we keep the Bhagavatam away from us and it's something that we just turn the pages, but actually if we hear the Srimad Bhagavatam and keep it close, that we actually allow it to enter into our ears, to penetrate the heart, to actually change the heart. And we can pray to Krishna, we can pray to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, there are those wonderful verses in glorification of the Bhagavatam. Oh, Sanatana Goswami, is it? There's like 8 verses in glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam that you can pray to the Srimad Bhagavatam before you read. And they're very wonderful verses, praying for entrance into Srimad Bhagavatam. Because it is, that's the quality of what we're hearing from Bhagavatam. It can change our heart, it can change our life if we let it. And as we know, the Srimad Bhagavatam is an incarnation of Krishna. So we approach the Bhagavatam in the correct way, then this result from hearing the Bhagavatam will be there. That actually will become a devotee. Will become qualified to render devotional service to Krishna in Krishna's own abode. And this is the supreme result of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with care, with attention, in all the personal ways that we want to deal with Krishna himself, that we want to deal with Krishna's devotees. We could deal with the Srimad Bhagavatam too in that way, with the utmost respect and care and attention. And then we'll get these wonderful results that are there throughout all the pages of the Bhagavatam. And remembering this mood of the devotee, of approaching any aspect of devotional service. So with confidence, with enthusiasm, with determination, with patience, following properly according to the previous acharyas. Then in that mode, in that way, then we'll gain the supreme result. So I'll stop speaking there. So that's the end of the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And we start 4th canto pastimes.
I find it hard to consider hearing service. Like, I don't do much service. I'm not doing just looking at the making garlands on. That's it. But then he's like, well, actually hearing is so reading is a service. So just that, it's hard to actually. It's not obvious there. It's only the first of the 9 causes, but still, it's like I feel like service is like action.
It's a practical thing. Yes, it's something. Yeah. But actually, hearing and chanting about Krishna, we are doing something for Krishna. We're strengthening our relationship with him. That's what he wants, That's the result of doing practical devotional service as well, making the garlands, cleaning the floor, whatever we're doing. But that result of strengthening our relationship with Krishna, because we do those things because we want to please Krishna. So we read and chant in the same way. I want to please Krishna, so I want to hear about him, I want to chant about him. So it's service, definitely. But it's easy to just think service is something practical, physical that I do with my body, and hearing and chanting is of a different quality. But
it's the most important service actually, because it's all about training our minds. And then as we reach in hearing the right mood, not just attending, but actually hearing. And then you see like there's all these prayers that we used to pray to enter into the mood of the Bhagavatam. So it's actually one of the most important services. Don't be overly anxious that you're going to be put up for the next 15 years doing your household duties or even longer. Because you've got all this pressure to hearing, so hearing is actually the most important thing. Above all the other services, hearing is, hearing and chanting are very, very important.
Yeah, I was just remembering when we were speaking about the 9 processes of devotional service and reading from the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, when I was giving class last time. And Srila Prabhupada says that if one does not pay proper attention to the first process of hearing, one cannot clearly understand any of the other processes of devotional service. That's the importance. Like we can't understand the other processes properly without the hearing. So it's definitely the most important service, as Prabhu said. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also thinking about that recently. Everybody was telling pastimes that I've heard already several times, and it's just sometimes it's like my mind rebels and it's like, oh, I've already heard this. It's not me. You know? But it's not the proper room. The proper room is I want to hear about how this devotee wants to see Krishna, you know, like get into the actual pastime. Not like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. It's hard, like the mind is so rebellious, like always wanting something new.
Yes. Yeah.
But by hearing from each different devotees, they offer their view on the whole thing. So sometimes you can hear the same thing but from a different angle, and it's like, oh, that's another. So there's always something there if you're going to look in your life. You just sit there and listen to hear. Even Krishna within your heart can reveal something from within your heart as you're sitting there hearing the same thing. Something can pop up.
Yeah, I always feel that, like when, especially if you have the service to speak and there are senior devotees that have to hear you, and you think, oh my gosh, you know, what can I say? How can I explain the philosophy, you know, in front of senior devotees? It's like, and yet I know the humility of the senior devotee is not that they're sitting there thinking, oh dear, you know, but actually, as Prabhu said, they're relish hearing, you know, even if it's at a lower level, or definitely a lower level of realization, but the message of the Bhagavatam is still there. Yeah, it's always very, very humbling.
But the Krishna can also speak through anybody. You know, so that's the other thing as well. If we, like something can get rid of pride, and if the speaker is in the mood of humility also, then Krishna can say so many things through you that we're unaware how they're going to affect the audience. You know, we don't, you know, we're just like, we can say we're like a machine. We're sitting there and we're repeating what we've heard and we're speaking, and Krishna can put a sentence in there that can be very profound for someone in the audience, and we're completely unaware of it. So we're like puppets to somebody when we're sitting on the other side. You know, there's a big audience there and we don't know what to say, but still we're just doing it in the right mood, and then Krishna can tweak it, so to speak, so it's appropriate. So as long as we just do our duty, we have no real understanding of how it's going to impact the audience. You know, as long as we just do it in the right mood, you know, you can change people's hearts. You know, that's the power of what we're speaking about.
I read yesterday from one of those books by Radha Swami, his quote. He was talking, he was saying, as soon as we think that what we do is our doing, then instead of being like a puppet, the lines are cut off.
That's a good, yeah, that's a good image, isn't it? Or flat, you know, nothing there. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, very true. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.